Welcome back, friends, family, Colby. We're happy to have you join us here today in another excellent edition of ExPats, where we talk about pre-Super Bowl bets, pre-Super Bowl just narratives, stories, whatever we feel like. We got some assistant coach hires to talk about or not talk about if we really care about it, which sometimes we don't, sometimes we do. We have some Vince Wilfork quotes. We got some free agent / trade target buzz. We got Drake May at a Pro Bowl. We got NBA news. And we got Kendrick Lamar winning Grammys for songs where he talks about Drake being a serial offender. So it's been quite the week here, and we're looking forward to talking to you about it, as well as the tackles. Let me throw the tackles in there because I feel like I need to talk about tackles every 5 seconds. And the Patriots offseason, you can't go, more than a beat without talking about Ursery, Connerly, Banks, and Campbell. So, Lucas, introduce yourself and steer us in whatever direction you feel like, my friend.
All right, I'm going to go in the direction you don't want to go in, and we're going to address this head on. We're going straight into it.
No.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going for the three-peat this weekend. And,
Super Bowl narrative.
Super Bowl narrative, yeah. And, we obviously here have been pretty anti-Chiefs. I think that's something that you can say about all of New England sports right now.
Well, you like the Chiefs. The rest of
I do not like the Chiefs.
You are a big
I
Chiefs
do not
fan.
like the Chiefs. I like to watch greatness. So
yes, of course. If you look at Lucas Cobrey's Google history, most recent search, Keyshawn Booty oiled up on the sideline, only wearing a jockstrap. Second is Andy Reid oiled up in a jockstrap on the sideline, eating chicken tendies.
Yeah.
Eating chicken tendies.
No. Chicken nuggies. Okay. Huge difference.
See, the thing that the commercial well enough and you paid enough attention to Andy Reid and his eating habits that you would correct me on such a minute detail only proved my point further that you are a Chiefs fan.
No, that's just a great commercial. Like, I'm sorry.
I wish.
But the man has sold his soul to State Farm, and he's definitely making a bag because of it, and I can respect it to a certain extent. We're out here trying to do the same thing. We may not be saying bundle Ruski and Nuggies, but we are talking about Josh Connerly and Ariante Ursery and all these second-round tackles like we know what we're talking about. So if it were $multi-million, you'd catch me saying bundle Ruski.
If I was let's just say we're going back to 2004, right? We're in the middle of the Patriots time.
Let's do it.
Sunshines and rainbows, and Bill Belichick pops up on my screen with two little pigtails like he's Wendy from Wendy's, and he's talking about a 4 for 4. I'm going out back, and I'm putting myself out of my own misery. That to me would be absolutely terrible.
Different.
Just the idea of, oh my God, Bill Belichick being like, grab a Dave single today. Oh, no, dude, no. I don't want it. The Chiefs can have it. They can have the bundle this life, and they can have the chicken nuggies, and they can have, insert Campbell's soup commercial that Travis Kelce has. I don't care. Because my Patriots Dynasty boys are still on TV. They're still talking. They're having fruitful football-based conversations.
Danny Amendola is on Dancing with the Stars. We're selling out in any way.
All right, relevant. He's being an athlete. And yeah, Danny Amendola to me, after he left and trashed Bill, I don't really – I like Danny Amendola, take him or leave him. I'm talking about Edelnut. I'm talking about Gronk. I'm talking about the guys that are in the trenches, in dudes on dudes, games with names, whatever other 3-word podcast these mofos come up with. I like them talking ball, and I love those guys. Nothing like – look, the Chiefs players will have great post NFL careers. I have no doubt about that. They're very good in the media, particularly Kelce. I don't necessarily.
I think Patrick Mahomes, right?
Mahomes would be terrible.
No, Mahomes. Travis Mahomes. Dude, you got to give it to State Farm's marketing team. I mean,
that's a terrible ad, though. Like, that one's terrible.
Travis, we need you over here, Mahomes.
Look, I think, and again, the best living football player in terms of current production, Patrick Mahomes, already a top 2 all-time player. We can talk about his greatness day in, day out. We all know it. This isn't news. We don't have to, keep repeating ourselves. However, the man cannot act. Brady was a better actor. If you remember Brady's, if you remember that classic Dick's Sporting Goods commercial with Tom Brady where they kept talking about, look, it's this guy with a Boston accent. He's like, I'm from California. It's like, look, hey, open your mouth, Boston guy. Talk like you're from Boston. And like he literally like flips his crap and just starts chucking shit at the Dick's Sporting Goods. That was an advertisement. That was, first of all, well acted. It had an air of subtlety, and it also was good comedic timing on all fronts. Just bundling words together because it's State Farm and that's what we do. That's not funny. It's
That's
not
the
funny.
whole point of their marketing.
It's simple. It's the same. It's the same principle that got BK's crappy BK have it your way. The same
It's
people are in
brain
the room
rot, brother.
together. It's the same. Yes, it is. It is the TikTok era of football consumption, and I hate it. I hate it so much. I love a smart, well thought up ad. I like gritty football. I like not BK having it your way.
You want the
And
Ben Johnson of marketing schemes, is what you're trying to say.
I want the Mike Vrabel of marketing schemes. Ben Johnson would be better than this. I want the Mike Vrabel era of marketing schemes where he just has a lip in, he's spitting on the side of the road, and he's advertising for John Deere. That's football, my friend. I want that. And you know what? He's not even doing that because Vrabes isn't that type of guy. The thing is, he also isn't a three-time Super Bowl champion like Andy
I was
Reid
going to
is.
say.
So, yeah. But like, hey, he's like 30 years younger, and let's give him time to actually prove himself. I'm not saying he'll ever be like Andy Reid, who I believe is already like a top 3 coach all time.
Top two.
Uh,
Let's be
uh,
honest.
I don't know. I feel like you and I are not educated enough in the ways of the Tom Landrys of the world to like, or in the
Andy Reid is beating Tom Landry, George Hallis, any of these, Bill Walsh, any of them.
Bill Walsh, fantastic. But these guys like revolutionized.
You're the guy who was trying to take away like the West Coast's novelty last week by saying that he came up with the idea of
Yeah,
passing it
that's
short.
because I switch around because it's convenient for me, and I
I know.
always end up on top. You play both sides, so you always end up on top, Lucas. We know this.
This is our third
But
Sunny reference in 2 weeks. Colby is going to hate this episode.
we have to address the elephant in the room, and our one listener was disappointed last week and made a lot of valid points, and the points were as follows. Uh, you guys really know how to milk an extra 30 minutes of a podcast that's unnecessary. True.
Truth.
You guys know how to talk about crap that doesn't matter during that extended period. Also
Truth.
true. This is coming from the only person that will listen to the full entirety of this podcast, and that includes our own friends and family.
Truth.
So, I have my notes written out. I'm trying to keep us on track. For the sake of Colby, we're going to keep this under an hour because
I love
here at the
that.
ExPats podcast, we take constructive criticism constructively because you know what? It was good criticism because I don't need to see Lucas's face for an extra half hour. I got Domino's in the kitchen over there. I got some garlic Parmesan bites and some pizza that I would very much like to eat at some point. And we don't need to talk about the Chiefs dynasty any longer than we have to because we are a Patriots podcast. A Patriots podcast that, while we will do some betting for the Super Bowl, we also got to talk about some of the main narratives in Foxborough, as well as the ones in Dallas and LA. Because, again, if I can avoid talking about the Chiefs, I will. And I would love to bring up why I think Nico Harrison, GM of the Dallas Mavericks, is the future architect of the Chiefs' demise and has bitten the bullet, the sacrificial lamb, the Jesus Christ of the NBA so that the Chiefs won't win a Super Bowl. And I can explain that later. But is there a place you want to start off, Lucas?
I feel like we should probably talk about the assistant coaches first and get like the actual whatever you want to call that stuff, logistics out of the way. And forgot the word for a second there. But Todd Downing being named, or it's not official, but like probably looking like the wide receivers coach. Tony Dew, like a couple of the other guys. We
Tony
don't
Dew
really
is going to
care
be
too
RB.
much.
Thomas Brown is going to be like a pass game
Thomas
coordinator.
Brown, I find
That's
some
an interesting
curious
one that I think we value, especially given his roots in like the West Coast new era offenses, and maybe he can marry that with what we hope is a evolving Josh McDaniels, because Josh McDaniels is in principle an evolver. He changes. His offense changes based on personnel every year. He might have a couple tendencies that can irk fans, but I think by and large, Josh McDaniels is a guy that has proven not to be any one thing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Ben McAdoo staying on, which
Yeah.
maybe, just maybe, if you want to read into it too much, and I guess that's what everyone freaking does nowadays, if you want to read into it too much, you could say, yes, Alex Van Pelt was instrumental in the development and continued, I think, progress of Drake May's career, but Ben McAdoo was right there in the building with him. And I don't believe, is McCartney coming back?
I don't know
Not
if it's
sure if that's
confirmed or
confirmed or
anything,
not.
but yeah.
Maybe from this appointment we see Drake May's like, Ben's kind of my guy. He's been helping me out. He's really kind of helped me see the game in a different way, helped me adapt to this next level, which again is me reading too far into things. But if he's sticking around and we're getting rid of people like Pellegrino and Belichick and a lot of guys that maybe had a claim to stay, uh, it's worth noting, and maybe McAdoo has a bit of an influence when it comes to Drake. So
Well,
that's interesting.
yeah, my thing is I think all these hires are showing that we're really taking a step into the future. Naming somebody as pass game coordinator, going out and getting these guys who are really looking to build for the future. I think the best thing you can say is we're looking forward to the future. And we got into this talking about the Chiefs dynasty before the podcast, and like really just not wanting to be talking about our dynasty and all this stuff. It's huge. I think we're turning the page. We're making a new step, and I think the biggest thing that like all these guys should be focused on, like in the locker room, it's just like, all right, like you have that you have that second era of the 49ers dynasty, or who like you have that second part of our own dynasty. This is like the third part. If you want to be a great team and go down as like one of the greats, like the Lakers or the Celtics or the Montreal Canadiens in hockey, or like any of these, the Yankees or the Sox, it's about sustained greatness and like what we're gonna do going forward, because we've had our greatness, and obviously the NFL is not set up like the MLB where you have that no cap, but it's still possible, and I want to see us return to greatness as soon as possible. And I don't think I think doing it the right way and building and taking what we've failed at the last 5 years is huge, and so I'm excited to see where the future takes us, because all signs are pointing towards something new, and new is always better. So.
New is always better. And do you think if the Trumpster actually does end up invading Canada, he'll change it to the Montreal Americans? I mean,
It's a
I'm
good
wondering.
question.
I feel like that's some sort of petty BS that man would.
Imagine that.
Wrong. You're the Americans now. Always been the Americans. America's better. It's called Americans. Poutine sucks. You have bad food.
Whoa, poutine's
Uh,
awesome. Not gonna lie.
That's not me saying that. That's Donald J. Trump,
Oh, okay.
president somehow of the United States. He's saying that. That's not on me. I didn't say any of that. It's just I'm pretty sure he said he hates poutine, and Canadians and Drake and all this other stuff. The Drake thing I can understand. He actually might have a point there, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I think revamping the staff, honestly, like again, until all of the assistants are kind of named in unity, which is how they do it, and it's how they do it with the actual coordinators, we're not going to have the precise definitions. But I think due to some leaks and things, we generally know where most people are filled out on the coaching staff here. A lot of it is positive. I think even the ones that get criticism, which Todd Downing seems to be kind of the poster boy of criticism in the media right now, it doesn't really bother
Whatever
me
it
that
is.
much.
Yes.
And it doesn't really bother you that much because it's like, again, first of all, this is Josh McDaniels' team, and this is a guy that's a former tight ends coach. I think he probably has a holistic understanding of the offense. And when it comes to some of these young receivers, I don't mind a guy with some of that tight end room experience coming in and maybe teaching them their role in a scheme better than say a Wes Welker could, which I'm not saying he would do or wouldn't. Wes Welker, I'm sure when it comes to like the technical responsibilities of a receiver, would be fantastic from that angle of it at coaching receivers. But again, as far as Todd Downing is concerned, if we have a lot of young receivers that don't feel like they have an understanding of their place in the offense again this year, like we did last year, then we're going to have some problems and concerns. And then hopefully he's out of the building, this time next year. So that's definitely the only real like I think big talking point that's been going around in Patriots media the past like week or so, and honestly, a lot of it is more so out of necessity. I think just to have a take on it than
Yeah,
it is really to be uh,
you have to address it.
relevant.
Yeah.
Relevant because again, when Josh McDaniels comes in and Mike Vrabel is your head coach, I think there's a lot of top end control going on. And
Hmm.
if you're not having a grasp of Josh McDaniel's offense, I think you're out because you have to be, I think, a high motor, intelligent player if you want to have a role in this team. Because we don't necessarily know if he's going to be going after guys like big X receivers that are dominant at the catch point that might not run a 4-3 or maybe take up the middle of the field, but they can absolutely make contested catches. Uh, like a guy that was, I think, thrown out there as a potential trade target, and I know you don't like this, and I'm not necessarily for or against it, was George Pickens. And I think with Josh McDaniels, I don't see a way we get a guy like George
We need a
Pickens.
route run.
Uh,
We need the
uh,
guy who can get open no matter
for
what.
sure, we need a route runner. We need a guy that's technical, has a little bit. We need like basically if Pop Douglas was like Jalen Polk's body,
Yeah,
like that would be a
Right.
great like that Z slot guy that the Patriots have been looking for a while. Look, in terms of build, I wouldn't mind a George Pickens for sure, but I don't think him and Josh would get along well, and I also just don't
Excellent.
find him to be a particularly enticing off the field slash even on the field. His behavior is pretty reprehensible
Yeah,
sometimes. So DK Metcalf doesn't want to come here. T. Higgins, the narrative changes every week. I don't feel like talking about him much with you
yeah,
right now, just because I think we know what the situation with T. Higgins is, and the situation is we don't know. And it's that one week he's re-signing, another week they can't afford it. It's all hearsay and baloney to me. It's the more important things are like if he actually, if his agency has changed and if they're in cahoots with whoever is representing Burial and Chase. I think to some extent there's some overlap there, so that's going to have its own implications. We'll talk about it when we get there, and maybe here and there throughout. But I think I'm slowly realizing you're definitely on board with the fact that I think just this is a weird year for receivers, and yeah, T. Higgins is a great piece, and we've been talking about him since September 1 again. But I'm not sure it's feasible, and I think like we
goes
have
back to
the ability to go to get like I think at least one in free agency and maybe two in the draft tackle. So we might as well just kind of overload on that because unless we were like the 11th pick and Tet was right there and we knew we're not getting T Higgins, like I don't necessarily mind trading back with like Dallas or like a team like 10, 11, 12 if McMillan is still there and taking him with the understanding that we didn't get T Higgins. That I can live with if we get more picks and I know we're either trading up or settling at 38 with Ursery, Connerly. Preferably Ursery. I think you and I are both more so excited by that big frame. Although Connerly obviously has some interesting attributes to him as well. And where or not people later in the draft like a Wyatt Milam, some people like that they fall in. That's another interesting topic of conversation.
Yeah. No, I think the big thing with Todd Downing or whatever his name, I have no idea. Whoever the receiver coach is,
Todd Downing. Yeah.
Uh, you're going to have to develop Travis Hunter if it is Travis Hunter. You're going to have to develop or not T Higgins, AJ Brown, T Higgins, whoever you want to sign as a veteran. Are probably the only guys you're not going to have to develop. Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, all these guys that are on the route, like they still need work. Travis Hunter, Tet McMillan, all these guys that you're thinking about, Jaden Higgins, uh, you're going to have to develop them. And so I think there's got to be some kind of technical aspect that you're going to have to build on. I got into it, not even got into it, but I heard some guys reasoning about Hunter being more of a receiver on TikTok today. He and I were kind of going back and forth in our comment section just about like Travis Hunter maybe not having the physicality to play corner at the next level, whereas he is a explosive and fluid mover, and that probably translates a little bit more to receiver. And so it kind of changed my mind on it. I think you can develop all those technical aspects. Obviously, he has great ball skills and all that. Like the mental side of it, I think is kind of like a understanding where to be, all that stuff. I think he's probably farther ahead than people are willing to give him credit for. But yeah, I think whoever is in charge of the receiver room has a big responsibility. So I really want to see how they build that room up because it's definitely something that you have pieces in there. Maybe they're not the best pieces. Jalen Polk, obviously, like Javon Baker. Like if you can get the most out of those guys, the team will be a lot better next year. And that's the biggest thing. We got to get the most out of the guys we have on the roster currently, and then build from there. Because I think you don't have the talent. Like maybe you don't have the talent at tackle or at O line or receiver, but you definitely. I think O line is probably more important to build for the future of this team than wide receiver because you can go make a splash and go try to get T Higgins or make a trade for Tyreek Hill or AJ Brown. And I know we're not on the same page on Tyreek Hill, but I know we don't want Tyreek Hill. We're both in agreement about not wanting Tyreek Hill.
We're
Um,
on the same page about that. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, I think it's a big hire, but I think no matter what, you're going to have improved play because you have a better coordinator. You're going to have, hopefully, you're going to have a better offensive line, and Drake's going to be improving, and so it's definitely a concern, but I don't think it's the number one concern. But I don't think this means that the offseason is in bad shape or anything. So
I'm going to be honest with you. About 90% of what you just said was cutting in and out, so I didn't get a lot of it. I got some of it. I got some key parts. But I would like to know is what are your thoughts on Javon Baker making the 53-man roster next year? Do you see him being on the active roster week one? I know this is incredibly premature and we don't know how free agency or the draft goes, but he's someone where it's like he immediately strikes me as someone that's going to be on Josh's naughty list, like immediately.
yeah,
Uh, for a lot of disciplinary, but B just he seemed very much a fish out of water in an NFL offense, and we
yeah,
know that because he couldn't make it on the field, and athletically he's someone that, given our lack of athleticism, should have been on the field. So that comes down to just a complete, I think, lack of understanding and maybe an inability to study the offense. I'm not entirely sure where the issues are, and I don't want to speculate in a way that would be disrespectful to him or the coaching staff, but I do wonder where he ends up
yeah.
heading into the offseason.
No, and I think it's a valid point because obviously we didn't have the talent at receiver this year, and that was really concerning. And like you and I, every week we'd get off after the game, we'd get on the phone and we'd be talking about how bad the receivers are. He wasn't making the lineup then, and so now in a more complex offense, in an offense that you're going to need to be able to look up and see if there's pressure going, even if you're playing in the slot or outside, like you're going to have to adjust your route at the line of scrimmage without communicating with Drake. And maybe you do, but even then, like you still have to know what you're gonna do. And he's definitely a guy that I could see not making the team, and maybe not even being on the practice squad or something. But like, uh, he's a guy who's probably a luxury right now, unless he figures it all out this offseason. I don't see that happening. I think he's kind of a guy that you took a flyer on, you missed. It's not the end of the world, but I mean, it definitely would be helpful to have him uh, start to produce if he ever does. But I don't think you're shooting yourself or being all that upset if you have to cut him. So same thing with like Tyquan Thornton this year. I mean, you cut your
It is
losses.
it is funny to think, like, Taekwon, we rode that out for like 2 years longer than we should have. It is funny to think that back-to-back fourth-round picks we have Chad Ryland and Javon Baker. If Javon Baker really doesn't end up being any sort of positive on the offensive side of the ball, again, uh, I don't know how much credence I'm willing to give to these narratives that Elliott Wolf hasn't implemented his system. And this offseason, he has his scouting and draft system, which is far more modern than he was using Belichick's last year. To me, like, I understand that we value now the Moneyball aspect of football. We value the analytics. We value the sports science. That's totally understandable to me. I do think there is a certain element of, like, as has been true since the dawn of time, can this dude play football? Like, does he fit your team? Do you think you can work with them? Like, a lot of the basics that seem to have been misses the last, you know, better part of a decade, actually, or at least a half decade. So while I'm willing to give Elliott Wolf one more chance, even though honestly, like heading into the late off season, or sorry, the late season, I was more excited about the prospect of getting a new GM than I was necessarily a new head coach. I'm past that point now. Now I'm like, I'm very happy we do not have the old regime in here from a head coaching standpoint because I think it was bad for all involved. No one was ready, but in terms of GM, like that's the person that's going to have to step up big time this season. We need to make sure that he's held accountable heading into this year because actually that's just not true, is it? I just like he in terms of drafting, in terms of like scouting and draft, like he's put in the most work, so he's going to be the most trusted advisor. So yeah, we still should hold him accountable. But I mean, we kind of have a new dog in the house when it comes down to making like finalized decisions. So I guess like at the end of the day, we need to start holding Cowden and Vrabel responsible for draft picks from here on out. But I still think they're going to be going off intel from Wolf. So
Yeah.
if Wolf isn't here this time next year, again, while his role has changed and he's faced somewhat of a demotion, at least in terms of practice, maybe not in title, uh, we'll find out. We'll see.
I just My
I've heard
thing is,
positive things about Wolf, so I'm not willing to write him off just yet.
yeah, I think going back to kind of what you said about the his philosophy or whatever you want to call it, grading system. I, I don't think I've said it before. Like Jalen Polk, I don't think is necessarily like I said before that I don't think he's anything promising. A lot of his mistakes were mental, and I think that does come down to like the discipline aspect from Gerard Mayo. Like you heard in the training camp last year, like they just weren't getting penal or like disciplined for jumping offside, drops, that kind of stuff. I mean, the number of holdings and all that, like just lining up in the wrong spot that Jalen Polk. I think Jalen Polk could come back and you could see him have a solid year next year. Because I think all the stuff that we saw in training camp of him being a solid receiver and him in college just being that steady chain mover, I don't think that requires a ton of. There's nothing that he doesn't possess physically and athletically that means that he can't do that. I don't think there's anything. I think it's all mental for him, and I think with a better coaching staff, I think you'll see more production out of him. So I'm not ready to jump on Elliott Wolf and say that he's failed, and I don't think I still have my complaints. I don't think Caden Wallace was the right pick when you took him. I don't think
Yeah,
Jalen Polk even at that time was the right pick. I
no,
mean, obviously, AD Mitchell didn't really do anything this year, and he was competing for the fourth role, but I still would have taken him way before Polk.
he was out for swaths of the season, right? If I
Yeah,
remember correctly.
and
And that offense, like, it is hard to really judge anyone on that
yeah,
offense. Honestly, we can look at probably two things, which is that Alex Pierce and John uh, had their stock rise,
hmm
if marginally, and the rest of the offense was just kind of a disaster. Outside of, I guess I'll spare Jonathan Taylor from that conversation too.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, look, I would have rather had E.D. Mitchell this season just
yeah.
because it's like, what would we have had? I don't know.
I think
But with Jalen Polk, it's athletically, I know that he has a lot of traits there that would translate. I'm still concerned about his inability uh, to create separation. And it's like, you're right. I think the mental errors composed a lot of the issues that we had with him this season. The problem is like the number one thing with him was kind of a sure-handedness, and that was like the last thing he displayed this year. So like,
yeah.
how much of that is mental, and how much of that is like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of it's mental, but how much is also just the physical inability to translate to the next level? That being said, he had an NFL caliber quarterback throwing him the football in college. So
Yeah.
if the ball's on your hands, I think that generally, based on what he's displayed at the collegiate level, like he's coming down with it. So
No, and
we'll see. I agree. Like the rebolstering of the receiving room, it the, it becomes less of a priority if Polk becomes like an NFL caliber player. The problem is a lot of people have given up on him already, and I might be one of them. To be honest with you, I don't know. That was about as disastrous as a second round pick could go. Like I think we saw more of N'Keal Harry his rookie year than we saw out of Jalen Polk, and they were essentially taken like what within like 5 or 6 picks of each other. So it's not like that different. And I know we're not seeing like AJ Browns and Debo Samuels in the second round of last year's draft. It was such like it had a lot of generational talent at receiver, but most of which was taken in the first like 22 picks or so. So it was an interesting draft from the depth.
like
What was 22 BTJ, right? Yeah, 23.
yeah,
All right, so then 23,
burned into my
first
memory.
23 picks.
I
Yeah, I
love
know.
Brandon.
So Lucas's order of operations goes oiled up Keyshawn Booty, oiled up Andy Reid, oiled up Brian Thomas Jr. Those are the top three. That's the triumvirate. When Lucas goes to sleep at night, now you know what he dreams of. It is three men of different sizes, ages, and body types just oiled up together, sitting on a carpet. They got a fire going. It's actually one of those like uh, tiger skin rugs. Like it's very nice and soft. There's some champagne. Actually, it's not champagne. What would you like? They're drinking bubbly like Dr Pepper. Uh, they're I'm trying to think of what appetite. They're all eating mini mac and cheeses. Like I'm trying.
Mac
What
and
would be
cheese balls, brother. Yeah.
a classic Lucas Cobra dream? It's not like champagne and oysters. It's like Dr Pepper and mac and cheese,
Propel and
and
mac and cheese balls. Mm-mm.
they're playing like strip poker, except everyone just takes their clothes off no matter what, and then it just becomes a fun time. So that's Lucas's Cobra dream. Uh, Clip it, but. Anyway, I don't remember where we were in that. I just can't stop thinking about your wild and delusional fantasies. But I
Uh,
understand and I respect you for your predictions, I guess.
do you want to move on to like
Yeah, I think we need to move on. Uh,
Did you see any of the clips from Drake May on Good Morning Football or anything yesterday?
I did see the LeBron.
I didn't see this, so
You didn't see the LeBron Jordan debate thing? I
no.
don't know if this was
Okay.
on Good Morning Football. It might have been on Good Morning Football, but
He did
anyway,
two interviews yesterday.
they asked him who the GOAT was, and he said, like, I mean, obviously, like, who do you think Drake May would say the GOAT is?
Jordan, come on, now he's from North
Come on.
Carolina. Yeah,
He's from North Carolina.
come on
They
now.
both went to UNC. They're both from North Carolina. Come on
Yeah.
now. And he was very respectful to LeBron because Drake May is just a class act, and he's always going to say that. But he was like, "Come on now, it's Jordan." Which I mean, come on, he would be a poser if he didn't say Jordan.
Well, my big takeaway, he did two interviews yesterday, and both times they had him on, they like started showing his highlights and everything before, and like as you do, it's a football TV show. And right when he gets on, he was like, "Please don't show my highlights." And they were like, "What? Why?" And he was like, "First of all, they're not my highlights; they're my teammates." And so it's just really encouraging to see this stuff. I mean, he's
That
got.
40-yard run was all because of Jalen Polk.
I disagree. I think he's a. I have
No, yeah, of
high
course,
stuff, but he's
of
he's
course.
everything you see about this kid is that he's got the right mindset and he's obviously got the athleticism, and it's just about getting some of the finer details down. And I think that's all you can possibly want to see from your quarterback. I mean, I was watching him flirt with my wife, Kay Adams, and I was a little bit not flirt. He's
How
engaged.
many wives do you have?
A lot of them. I'm Mormon, man. But yeah, no, he's a class act, like you said, and I love seeing it because he's looking to build something in New England, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about the second era of a lot of these dynasties. And so I love that kid. He really has all the makings of somebody great in this league, and so I cannot wait to see next year and the year after that, and all the Super Bowl rings he's going to bring back to New England.
I mean, yeah, sure. Let's not jump the gun there,
Nope, we're not jumping any guns.
Mr. Mormon. Let's let's slow our roll. See, it's funny because you and I are like, I feel like so lockstep and also polar opposite in our enthusiasm about things. Like, I'll be like, let's start rebuilding, let's doing these things. You're like, no, we need to do all this boring stuff first, which I'm like, we can still do boring stuff and do exciting stuff. And you're like, no, let's stay boring. And then you're also like, we're going to win so many championships. And I'm like, whoa,
You have you have
whoa.
so many holes right now that
Yeah, you do. You have all the holes. So
yeah
you just plug them all. Just like, just start plugging them ad nauseum.
yeah I'd rather make sure you get a couple of holes fixed and then build out from there.
No, we can do. We have so much money, dude. We have so much money. We have so much money. We have so much money.
Yeah,
But
but
I
there's
don't. We don't. You don't. You don't spend it all.
well even then like you can spend it all in the off season. I just don't think
Just be
that's
stupid.
the way to
That'd be
go about it. Yeah.
that's not the move for a first year head coach in this organization and a second year quarterback. Like, let's be realistic here. Like, we don't have the roster of the 2018 Chiefs wherein Mahomes' second year and his first year starting. You can be an MVP and go to the AFC Championship game. Like, that is, again, let's reserve the Mahomes and that sort of air for, I think, a different conversation altogether, because we're not that, and no one's that. So
Yeah.
uh, have an understanding of what's realistic for us timeline wise, and how we can build around him. And if Elliott Wolf's really going to try to do this Green Bay Packer model, maybe he just drafts some more mid round receivers, and we just try to draft a ton, and then just hopefully a couple of them work schematically. Because if you watch the Packers, it's not that any one receiver is really dominant. It's that the way that LaFleur dials it up is just that it caters to everyone's strengths, and any one guy can torch you on a given day. I mean, hell, Dontavian Wicks had a couple monster performances this year, so I think that's definitely on the table when you have a McDaniels-led young receiving core with Drake May at the helm. I think maybe we're going to see some similarities between us and the Packers, and how we build from in to out. Like, on the offensive line is an important part of squaring that part of our future away. So I think we both
Um,
understand the importance of that.
yeah. No, and I think they have a great. They marry their scheme up, run the pass, and play action in Green Bay really well, and so I'm excited. I think you have a lot of upside here, and obviously we have one of the worst rosters right now in football, but I think there's reason to be optimistic. Maybe not for next season in 2025, but 2026. Maybe they want to send us to Australia in 2027 because we're so good.
I can't wait for the NFL to make more money. It's just so fun that the NFL just makes so much money that they have to do dumb crap like that. But, that's neither here nor there. Lucas is a big fan of the Australia game because he is a big fan of Australia.
Great
I
continent.
I
Great
could give a
continent.
crap, to be honest with you. Uh,
I love
it's a
seeing the
fun.
game of football grow. It's crazy to me that you don't have more countries and more places where it's such a great team sport and such a great molder for life. I think a lot of what I think football is a great analogy for everything, all the difficulties that you can go through in life, and there's a lot of
You just saw, and I saw it too. The Patriots repost and the NFL repost Tom Brady's Hall of Fame speech
I did
this
not
summer. Where see, it's been circulating in the media where it was like, look at how great Tom Brady's speech is, where he literally says that exact same thing. Where he
I
said,
didn't see that.
"I believe everyone should play football for the simple principle that football is hard and it teaches us these things about life." So maybe you're just in lockstep with the goat. Who knows? Maybe you have
That's me.
goat-like intuition, but that has literally been all over social media today for some reason, namely with Patriots accounts.
No, I think he's right. I mean, I remember like being a kid and like this is terrible. This is not even has no business being on a podcast. But I remember being a tight end in fourth grade, and then they moved me to left tackle. Anyway, they moved me to left tackle, and I remember being really pissed off about it. And they I mean, I learned a lot from just being able to like have dealt with that adversity, and it's all. I mean, like it's a great metaphor, and so I love the idea of growing the game. So
For sure. I think that the NFL can do that by joining with other leagues and investing in local fields, leagues, flag football, grow the game initiatives, things like that. I don't think it has to rob our fan bases of games at home so that the league can make more money, so that they can go to uh, countries that aren't well suited to host NFL games, like Brazil this year, and we can have a disaster of an opening night performance and put players at risks because they don't have the right conditions for our guys to play. There's a lot of things I'm not enthused about when it comes to the NFL just throwing games overseas for no reason. I think the London thing has worked for as long as it has, and it seems like the fan base there is growing. So obviously, there's a lot of potential when it comes to exploring these markets. But I mean, look, the 5 to 6 hours it takes to get to London from the East Coast, like that's one thing, right? Because it's like that's how much it takes to go from, uh, say, one side of the country to the other. Once we start like making these ridiculous like entire day long trips and we're going to deep into South America, Australia, Eastern Europe. For me, it's like this feels very nefarious, and it just seems like a waste of a lot of people's time. And I don't think that a
nefarious.
lot of the guys don't like it. Like, what was who was it?
Xavier Leggett.
Xavier Leggett was like, I didn't eat. They didn't even have
Uh,
lemonade. They didn't even have
yeah.
lemonade in Germany, dude. Like, I don't uh, I don't know, not a fan. I just don't care. I like the London game being at 9:30. I like waking up and watching Jacksonville play at 9:30 because it's like the only time I'll ever be incentivized to watch like Jacksonville play. But for the most part, I'm not on board.
Um, I think I love the idea of growing the game. Like I said, I love watching guys come from different backgrounds, and like Jordan Mailata is a great story. Obviously, like the Aussie punter is kind of taken over college football, and you see a lot more of that style of punting.
The 27-year-old Australians that come over,
Well, I mean, not their
they're
fault
always
they don't
like
get
they're always like
discovered.
30.
Yeah, but not their fault they don't get discovered by NFL scouts or anything. Um,
Yeah.
no, I love the idea. I think, like I said, football is a great sport, and it's amazing to me that a sport as big and popular in the states as it is here is not more popular internationally. So
There's a lot of reasons for that. Oh, I appreciate your enthusiasm for the game's development. I think there's like a little bit of naivete there in terms of like what the NFL's motivations are for doing these things. Like obviously the point is to grow the game, first and foremost financially, but I don't think a lot of these I don't think a lot of these initiatives have the players' well-being and health at the priority of their well as a priority. And I don't know, it just seems very much like a what next country can we try to wring a few extra $1 million out of? I'm just I think
aren't
there
you
are
a fan
ways
of
to
soccer?
I wish there are ways to grow the game. But well, this is another reason why the NFL has trouble translating to other markets is that well, soccer doesn't. No one likes it in soccer. They go to Saudi Arabia. They go to the fans don't like it there either, just like they don't necessarily like it here. But it, the NFL, like the ad structure of an in-game watching experience, is unlike anything uh, in the world, and I think that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. So that's why, like, when you grow up watching soccer historically, and now advertising has pervaded soccer in a way that is made it not as pure as it used to be. There still is very much like it's a culture shock to go from watching soccer to football. Whereas football to soccer is easier because you're just like, oh, I just watched 45 minutes of uninterrupted sports. Like that was cool. I didn't have to watch 15 BK ads. Like it's a very different viewing experience. And again, we don't have to talk about the ethics of the NFL and their commercial structure because I love football, you love football, and that's really all that matters. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
No, I think you bringing up some solid points. I just like I said, I think it's an interesting thing. Something I've always wanted to try and do is work for the NFL's international program, and I love the idea of growing the game. I mean, like I said, I mean, Josh and I met playing organized sports. Uh, I mean, I can think of countless friends. I still talk to all my college teammates, and I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them. Uh, I love the idea of what sports can do for, and as football specifically, I think more than any other sport because you're relying so much on every other person, and all 11 people have to do their jobs. It builds a lot of really great characteristics in people. So, uh, Lord knows the Aussies could use that.
what football? They have rugby, dude. They're tougher.
I don't know, man. Jordan Mailata, dog, but
He
other
played
than
rugby. Yeah, that's why going to the NFL for him was like, oh, it's just cake.
no,
You're telling me I don't have to die to play this game? He's like, that's great.
he he was on the Kelsey's podcast and he was talking about the differences between the two sports, and I think it's really interesting because I have done my fair share of watching rugby at this point, and
You do?
when I was living in Rochester, dude, I was watching a couple rugby games a day, low key, which is weird, but
Were you
yeah,
watching like Six Nations?
no, I was watching Aussie games, like I forgot what the Sydney team is
You
called.
never watched the Six Nations or the World Cup, but you watched the Aussie League.
Yes,
Wow. All right. You
not like
you and your love for Australia. Lucas has a very interesting connection with that country, which honestly it's inspiring.
that's why I'm so happy I got to bring it up this week, and like I'm about to put it in the title, Australia.
No.
Um,
Well, for the sake of brevity and for the sanity of our dear friend Colby, why don't we head into some? First of all, I wanted to give this quick take, and it's that I think that as we start talking about the Super Bowl, it is only just that we mention as Boston fans how frustrating it is that the Lakers just got a generational talent in Luka Doncic. Now, I know a lot of people say maybe he doesn't have a winning mentality, given that he doesn't play defense and his inability to get in shape at the right time is a recurring issue. But again, he's like what 25 years old. Like that still scares the ever
younger than
living
us.
crap out of me that guy is going to be a Laker for the next 10 plus years. But maybe just maybe Nico Harrison, maligned GM of the Dallas Mavericks, had one thing in mind. One thing in mind when he decided to ship away a top five player in the NBA, and it was that Patrick Mahomes, a native of Texas, I believe North Texas, somewhere in like Northwest Texas, I don't know, is a Dallas Mavericks fan. You can be seen at courtside at some of the games. He's talked about them. I think he loves Luca. All this stuff.
Telling his wife no RBFs at the game.
Now, now, poor Patty Mahomes just lost the best player of his much beloved NBA team, and will that
Kyrie Irving
psych
got
him
traded.
out? Will that get in his head? Will that get in his head as they head into this Super Bowl week? They was asked about it at media day, and honestly, he seemed more butthurt about that question than he was about the question about which ref he likes to pay off and give holiday cards to. So he was more crushed about the Luka question, which honestly I respect. So I'm thinking, imagine if Patrick Mahomes, so distraught from this whole Luka Doncic trade that might have ruined the future of his beloved Mavericks while giving them like a 2 to 3 year window now, but destroying the future prospects and killing this sort of legendary career that would have been molded in one place immediately following Dirk's. Do we see this as potentially Nico Harrison, GM of the Mavericks, falling on his sword for the sake of America, for the sake of the world, for the sake of Australia, even, and saying, listen, we can't have another Chiefs Super Bowl. It's bad for the game. No one wants it. We all hate it. We all Let me bite this bullet and shop Luka and ruin Mahomes' week and hopefully make his Super Bowl Sunday a lot more difficult than it needed to be because he'll be too busy wiping away some tears on the side. I don't know. It's just me. I'm just thinking. But
There
just thinking.
there's I forget the guy's name, but he's the all-time leading Mavericks scorer, and it's not Dirk. I thought Dirk would be the guy, but he's the assistant GM now for the team, and Luke is like 30 points away from like beating his all-time record, and so somebody on Twitter was saying that that was another part of the reason of why they traded him. Um, I don't think that has any impact on him. I think Patrick Mahomes is like mental warrior. I think he deals with a lot of crap with his own wife, Taylor Swift being at the games, and they kind of just take it in stride.
Yeah, Dirk Nowitzki is the most career points for the Mavericks.
Huh? Maybe I can't remember what it was then.
Maybe the internet lied.
Shocking. But yeah, no.
Also, the fact that you're earnestly answering this GM question, we could have just left it as a silly hypothetical and not actually to seriously address whether.
Why'd you bring it up then, dude?
Because it was literally just for clickbait talking about if Luka Doncic could help the Eagles win the Super Bowl. This has
I hope
nothing to do
so.
with real sports. But I appreciate the earnest way you approached the question.
Yeah, no. Patrick Mahomes is a mental warrior, dude.
Yeah,
He
we
takes so
know,
much in
we
stride.
know, we know.
Did you see the clip of Cooper DeJean at the bunch of the Eagles at the Laker game? And I mean, I think that's fueling the exciting wipes up even more. That's what I'm excited to see.
Look, dude,
DeJean
let's
runs
get into
healthy.
our bets because I think I
Let's do it.
know what direction you're going to go into, and I know what direction I'm going to go into.
Josh is a
I
homer,
think,
a
although I'm
KC
still,
homer.
what'd you say?
Josh is a KC homer.
I'm not a Casey Homer. I believe in what has become routine, and I believe in trends. And you're an Eagles homer. You literally have the 90% of your TikTok is devoted to them.
Blow the whistle.
Whereas, which is funny because we started the podcast with me talking about your, let's just say, borderline uncomfortable affection for the Chiefs, but when it comes down to actually putting our
This is
money
for
where our
me.
mouths are,
Let's
we're
go.
inverted here, and I have Andy Reid's feet in my mouth, and you have Nick Sirianni's feet in yours. So this is very interesting. But let's start, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. So to
Josh's
start, we
prop
have
bets
this.
for the week, baby.
What'd you
The
say?
final edition of Josh's prop bets for the week. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot what they bogus bets or whatever the hell I called them, but I'm going to start off with just the normal ones. Let me
Let's do it.
just get my notes out here better. So we have the spread. KC -1.5. Where are
Wow.
you going? Where am I going?
Let's go. Come on. Let's go, Birds.
So you're taking the birds.
I
That's
take him
just
on the
one
money
line,
line. Come
obviously.
on. What?
All right. Well, we're not even on the money line yet. So Lucas, we already know where you're at on He's right. And I'm going over. I think Kansas City wins by. I think it's
Okay.
probably going to be like a 3. So Josh on the over,
Just laying the points, baby.
laying the points. All right. So now we got money line. KC -120. I think
Wow. They're close.
these are bet MGM. These have changed. So the problem is these odds are going to be different, but we're not actually like putting money and winning money. So it's basically just if we're right or wrong. The loser is going to have to next week, deliver a little monologue written to
Are you
open
writing
next
these
week. So
down?
yeah,
Okay, good.
and
Uh,
I think it's honestly we kind
sure.
of money line KC -120.
Let's go, Birds, baby.
Lucas Birds, Josh KC. I think this is writing itself at this point. But I think again, you couldn't bet against Brady, you cannot bet against Mahomes and Reed. I think
I hear you.
it's fool's errand, and I've done it year after year, every year. It's the Niners, it's the Eagles. I'm like, this could actually be the team that does
This
it,
is
and
the
they never
team.
do. So
This is the front.
I will not disrespect the title holders. I will not disrespect the best player in football and the best coach in football.
I think
While
there
I
are
might,
some injuries that should be taken into account. The fact that they've had to kick Tooney out to left tackle, and they've got he's played well in the playoffs. That left guard, I can't remember his name, but if there were ever a pass rush that could get by Joe Tooney, I mean, everybody here in New England knows how great of a player Tooney is. He's going for his fifth ring or something like that. Um, Legend. I love the guy. He's a great player. I think Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. I mean, there are some really good pass rushers on that team. They got some run stoppers. They got a really dynamic defense. I'm excited.
yeah, all right. I mean, if anyone's going to make an argument, it's that. It's whether or not you think that, much like in the in the Tampa Bay Super Bowl, the key to winning against the Chiefs is you got to get him Mahomes. So let's see
You
if they
got
get him
to.
Mahomes. Over under 48.5.
I could see it being a really low scoring game. I don't know
I
that's
could
only
too.
24 points, but I could see it being. I'm going to take the under.
And just to switch it up, I'm going to take the over.
Okay.
If honestly, I like the under. I really do. But my problem is that I remember that first Super Bowl and holy cow, that was just lights out. Lights
Yeah.
out. But the way the Eagles play and the way the Chiefs have been winning games this year does not indicate that it's going to be an over. But
Yeah.
screw it, just for the sake of us having three different in a row, because we might have for the next 4 or 5 bets a similar outcome. So let me just switch it up a little bit. D Hop under 15.5 receiving yards. Now those odds are at minus 125 for
15.
him to be under 15.5 receiving yards
Well,
per bet GM.
um, I watched Gruden's breakdown of the game last night.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Highly recommend it to you, everybody else out there. Um, and he talked a lot about like the Xavier Worthy of it all and how he's been really carrying the team's offensive, like the receiving talent all year. Hopkins is still that guy. I don't think he's been the guy that
But
we
Marquise
thought
Brown is back as well, and since he's been
he.
back, D Hop's workload has decreased drastically. That's why his line is set so low.
I don't think any of those guys is more consistent than D Hop, and I think I could see him scoring the first touchdown if that's what.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna take the over as well.
Yeah,
I think he gets one catch that's at least 16 yards. So I
yeah,
think I'm taking
exactly.
the over. Both over. All right, next up, AJ Brown over 68.5 receiving
Ooh.
yards, which they have at minus 115. This one is tough. This one I initially very much wanted to slam the under because I don't know if Jalen Hurts has had a guy of over 68.5 receiving yards in quite some time. Uh, and
Uh,
again, I'm a Jalen Hurts hater.
yeah, I don't think they asked too much out of their passing game in general. I think Spags is going to try and stop the run. Obviously, I think that's what you
So
do
then,
against.
yeah,
So I could see McDuffie
Trent McDuffie,
go.
strat.
Well, I could see him going one on one like a lot of the time, like we saw in the
Yeah.
Belichick on going one on one on Smith, and then them trying to double AJ Brown. That let's go. Let's take the over, man. One
You're
ball,
taking the over.
one ball.
All right, I'm taking the under.
They're gonna feed AJ.
That's what I think. Like I'm getting Super Bowl vibes, but 60, like basically said
That's a
it'd be a
lot.
lock to get 70 yards.
Yeah, that's a
It
lot.
is a lot, but like at the same time, that's literally also one AJ Brown reception. Like
Exactly.
I kind of just want to lay it, but you can't. I want to
And
be
they're
like
gonna show
exactly
a lot
68.
of single high coverage, and I think AJ Brown
Yeah.
eats up one on one against Jalen Watson.
Uh,
Like, come on, man, put a real corner on me.
uh, yeah, I'll take the under.
Okay,
Uh,
we're just going at it this week.
Mahomes under 252.5 passing yards.
252.
252.5.
I don't know. I don't. I like we said. I don't think it's. I said. I don't think it's going to be really high scoring. I think you're going to see a lot of just eating the clock and just trying to take it down. So not by much, but I'm going to take the under there.
Good, because I'm going to take the over.
Okay.
I don't believe in either Pacheco or Kareem Hunt in terms
Neither
of
do I.
volume. And if as you say, the Eagles have to do, this was your game script. You're like the Eagles will win because they have to go up early. Uh,
They
if
will.
the Eagles do go up early because they have to for some reason, then
I never
I
said
think
they have
Mahomes
to.
is
That's
gonna.
how they
You
win.
did. You said they had to.
That's how they
Mahomes is
win.
gonna
If they're
throw
going
the
to win,
laces
yeah.
off the ball. Mahomes is gonna have to throw the laces off the ball. So even in a loss, I'm taking that Mahomes over.
Okay.
I'm slamming Mahomes over. Saquon 130.5 total yards.
130.
130 total yards. Total yards. Receiving and rushing.
um, yeah, he's 30 yards off of the all-time single season rushing record. Let's go. We're feeding the boy. SB. 28th birthday. Come on. Let's go, kid.
You're going the over.
Heck yeah. That's a lot of yards and that's two
And
that's two
that's total yards though. That's total yards.
still. He's getting out with the rushing alone. Let's go. That's two
Um,
home run balls that he hits on top of his normal rushing.
I'm gonna cheat and do a little research.
Have they given up 100 and something yards this season? You're asking Casey. Casey's been really good. Number one tackling defense. I forgot what else Gruden was saying, but they're a good
Defense.
defense.
And they're top 10 in rush defense, I think.
Yeah, if they can get I mean, if they can,
That's what I think.
if Philadelphia can get ahead early, uh,
Because we had this argument, and I remember you were flat wrong. Because I'm pretty sure Kansas City's yards per carry against is one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league.
I don't think so.
The best is the Packers at 4. KC's right there at 4.1.
4.1
Vikings
yards per
4.
carry is like number one. That's insane.
No, it's just flat 4. You know what? The NFL stats that I'm looking at right now, wow, NFL.com.
Here, I'll check for you.
But I'm pretty sure if I just do yards per carry filter. No, that was wrong. It's Ravens 3.6, Broncos 3.9, Packers Vikings at 4, Steelers Chiefs 4.1. So they're
Still top
essentially
10, yeah.
yeah, and they're barely, but that's like essentially they're tied for third. Not really. It'd be more like fifth, but
That's pretty
uh,
impressive, though. You got
yeah. Uh, 130 is a lot. I do feel like in a
131.
lot of these instances, it's going to just come down to a free play on either side of it. So, like, I think you could mop the floor with me in these bets. So maybe I just go with you here and I take the over.
Let's go.
I'm feeling a little overy on that one. All right, and the last one I have was Fox Sports prop bet. Will Taylor be shown during the national anthem? It is minus 500 odds are at no.
Oh, wow. During the Natty. During
During the
the
Natty.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah,
It's crazy you can bet on that. And then aren't they the ones in
you can bet on
control of
everything,
that?
brother.
What the heck, dude? They're the ones in control of the broadcast, and they're placing that bet. That seems like a little bit of a conflict of interest. Um,
Yeah, wait, what the hell?
yeah, right? Like, isn't that pretty crazy?
Does, does,
They're doing the
does Fox
broadcast.
actually have a sports book?
I think they do because that's how you rob Terry Bradshaw. Terry Bradshaw, first of all, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, man looked horrible. This year he comes back and he like looks great.
Looks good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
Apparently Fox is closing down Fox. Yeah,
really?
shut down. All right. All right.
I think they show Taylor.
During the Natty.
Yes, I'll take it. Whatever.
I'm going to go no. Partially because I don't think she's going to be, I think they're going to show, it's hard because I want to say yes, but like, I just don't think she's going to be the type of person that's standing there with her hand on her heart. I think they're mostly going to show people doing that, and then or like that one NFL player that's going to cry for no reason. So I'm going to go. You're going to go yes. I'm going to go no for the during the Natty. Now this means we actually have to pay attention during the Natty, and I guarantee you I won't.
I won't
So
either.
you're going to have to tell me, or we're going to have to go back and do some research, especially if for whatever reason our bets come down to something as stupid as that, which I'm kind of hoping it does because that'd
I
be a
do
fun
too.
little wrinkle. All right, so this is what we got so far. The spread, you are going Eagles. I am taking the over on the Kansas City under 1.5. Money line, Kansas City 120. Your birds on KC. We got the over under 48.5. You are the under. I am the over. D Hop under 15.5. We're both over. AJ Brown over 68.5. You're over. I'm under. Mahomes under 20, 252.5 passing yards. You're under. I'm over. Saquon 130.5. We're both over. And then Taylor shown during the Natty. You are yes. I am no. And those are our bets. These are the last BS bets of the year. Uh, it's been a
Take
pleasure
it
doing
on.
them. Uh, it's been a fun way to sit and talk football. So I don't mind. I don't mind throwing a little skin in the game, and that skin will be as long as we don't change our minds. Because you can change our minds. I'm thinking we do like a short page monologue that one of us will have to write for the other for next week's episode, where we basically just have to crap all over ourselves, whoever it is that has the worst of the two records. So
Let's go.
let's go. Bronco the country. Let's ride. All right, we are almost at an hour. I think for the sake of
Colby
Colby,
Richardson.
our biggest and only fan, I think maybe we call our quits. I mean, I'm not sure. Like, look, we're going to talk a lot more about these people as the combine comes up. So, we can talk about the Wilfork. The Wilfork quote was fine.
Yeah, we'll get into that next week.
The,
Whatever.
the Miles Garrett, Cooper Cup.
We're
He's
not
going to get
trading for
moved
either of
next
those
week.
bots.
No,
Garrett's
the,
still
the
on.
Rams wanting to eat some of the bonus money and offer to eat some of the contract to facilitate a trade is interesting, but I agree we're not doing that. Don't call Miles Garrett.
He's not. No, Cooper Cup is
It's
though.
insane. It's right now. Yeah. All right.
But
So,
even
yeah.
even during that 2021 season, fed the ball, schemed the ball like you couldn't believe. So
All right, yes, of course. Obviously, it's a Sean McVay offense, but let's not disrespect it.
I'm not.
Disrespect. You just literally did.
He schemed. They. All I'm saying is they schemed him the ball more than anybody you've ever seen.
Obviously, he was also like the only receiver of like
OJ,
he
OBJ,
carried, dude. He had an insane. He was a playoff. He was like a playoff edition slash performer.
Higby.
Uh,
Higby was
let's.
awesome that year.
He was good. He was solid. I mean, people like let's not disrespect him. Let's
No,
not
I'm not
disrespect
trying to. I'm just saying that they
him.
schemed him the ball.
Yeah, that's what happens in every football team because the whole point of the game is scheme.
Yeah, but they schemed. They threw him the ball like behind the line of scrimmage, and people were like, "This guy is like a top 3 receiver at the
Well, he
time."
also he also was making downfield receptions as well.
Was he though? Like a
Yes,
couple here and there.
I mean it was, when you have like what 20 touchdowns in a season, yeah, a couple here and there. It was a little entertaining,
We're
but
at the end of this.
we're over an hour.
We're gonna debate this off camera. See you guys next week.
Peace out. Go ExPats. Cool.